So our final guest, this has been history night, but our final guest is maybe he's making history, Marc Beausejour, and he just recently became or signed with the She Publishing. She Publishing, as you all know, if you watch the show, She Publishing is a friend of the show. We have authors who are signed with She Publishing on a regular, somewhat regular basis. And Marc, we already knew Marc from Marc was with us, Rhonda and I, in 2022 when we were at the Zeta Phi Beta Boule, and we had our book booth, our author booth, and Marc was with us then. And Marc came to last year's National Black Book Festival, and I guess that's where he met the She Publishing people, but he could have met him before. I don't know. But anyway, Marc, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
We have to go a little bit further back.
Okay, further back.
Yeah, Marc was one of our original audience members. He used to tune into the show every Tuesday.
And you are right.
And that's actually how we run the meeting. And he got to know the She Publishing family at the Black History Month Literary Weekend. And he got to know them then, and he saw how close they were. And then when then at the National Black Book Festival, he got to experience them again and saw how close they were, how close knit they were, how they supported each other. He was like, I need to be a part of this. And so I'm just so proud of Marc and everything that he's accomplished in the last few years. I've been following his trajectory over the last few years, and I'm just super excited. I'm glad you're on the show.
Thank you both for having me. Thank you, Gwen, for inviting me onto the show. I've actually wanted to be a guest in the Black Authors Matter TV show for years, and for me to finally be on here is a blessing. And Dr. Rhonda, thank you for having me. I know we've spoken a few times, and yeah, I did meet Shanita and the family of She Publishing at the Black History Month Literary Weekend last year, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me, because I was embarking on a journey that at the time I was too proud to admit that I needed help. I always thought that I would have to do this solo. Whenever we embark on a literary journey as being an author, we kind of, especially me myself, I guess I have too much pride to ask for help or to try to be part of a family. But that was very nice of Shanita and her family to reach out to me, and it's been a great ride so far, and I'm thankful for every minute of it. And I do see the ascension in my career. I see now the requests are coming in of people wanting me to take part in their works, and that's been the most rewarding part.
That's great, because you know what? Now, since Rhonda reminded me, because sometimes and charge it to my head, not my heart. We have interviewed so many people on this show that weren't you online when we had the virtual book festival?
Yes.
I remember that. Okay, so now it's coming back to me now. And you used to tune into the show like in the early days when we were first online, because we did the festival virtually. And it was a few months after we started the show, because 2020 COVID hit, everything shut down. And so the show came out of COVID. I did an interview recently, and I hadn't had a chance to tell you about this, Rhonda. Someone from, I think she's going to be with Penguin Random House. She's writing a book about bookstores. And she reached out to me to interview me about because of the festival. She didn't realize I used to have a store, but she was asking me, was the show a result of George Floyd? That's what she asked me, because we did have the show a few months after that. But no, I told her no. the show was because of COVID, because we couldn't have the festival. And so many books and all kinds of stuff came out as a result of COVID. Um, it's just,
Yeah,
and now we're still here.
we're still
And
here.
yeah, we're
Exactly.
still here because
Yep.
we're relevant and needed.
Absolutely.
And, um, you know, platforms. One other thing I really like about the show, and I just think sometimes I think about it, but between Rhonda and I, we have a lot of history with the book business and experience. We have 30 years of history with the book business, which we can bring into the conversation. Like this stuff didn't just start happening today or last year. It's been happening for decades,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people don't realize that. And we're able to bring that in. So, Mark,
Absolutely.
let's talk about you and your books and how you got started writing. I know we were when we were in Philly selling, you were telling me about the different books that you had. They're urban. The genre is urban fiction.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So basically, for I know I just came in, so I want to reintroduce myself. My name is Marc Beausejour. I was originally born and raised in Queens, New York. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, and I'm the author of the newly relaunched Black Cyrano series. And the Black Cyrano series is a series that begins with the first book that I released back in 2015, which is titled The Preacher's Web.
Okay.
So basically, it's a story about an embattled former All-City, All-State football quarterback named Michael Hillman, who later becomes a pastor who services his community. But he's servicing a community that is ravaged by drug dealers, gangbangers, and teen prostitutes. And he's trying to preach a message of love and forgiveness in that community. And he finds himself in the middle of a huge web, not just a web of deceit and a web of his own past failures, but he's also found himself in the middle of controversy when he's called upon to testify against a boy who was accused of murder, and he knows that the young boy is innocent. So this asks us to question our morality or the morality of our spiritual leaders. I wanted to write a book that was controversial because a lot of us look at our spiritual leaders as people who are blameless, people that can do no wrong. And I wanted to kind of paint the preacher, not in a negative light entirely, but I wanted to paint a preacher that has his own battles to fight, his own faults. I believe it was Donnie McClurkin that says, "We fall down, but we get up," and just want to paint a picture that even though he's done a lot of things in his past, he's trying to clean up so that he can help future generations. And in the meantime, I'm also intermingling the story with an account of a young boy who's trying to navigate adolescence in the streets of New York, which mirrors my own upbringing in New York. The basketball courts. That's why the title of the book has a picture of a basketball hoop with a goal, and then you see the red kind of outlining it. So basically, it's sort of like a book that was kind of like a memoir in sort of a way, but also it's a story, one of my first urban fiction mystery thriller novels that I've written. And it's definitely a book that actually helped create the other books in the series, but it starts off with this book, The Preacher's Web.
Okay. So then what's book two? Do you have them all there?
I have them all there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So book two, I come prepared. You already know
Okay,
that.
that's good though.
So book two is
Okay.
Adia's Ballad. So Adia's Ballad is basically one of my favorite books of the series, and the reason I say this is because this book challenged me to write from a female perspective. I had to take on this challenge because in The Preacher's Web, basically there was a girl who was killed in The Preacher's Web by her boyfriend. So Adia's Ballad is basically the story about the sister of the girl that was killed in The Preacher's Web and how the sister struggles with the tragedy. And she's a natural singer. So basically, she's a natural singer. So she used to sing to try to get over her grief. And at the same time, she's seeing a therapist, like a grief counselor, to help her get over her pain. But she's also seeing her sister in visions. So I always paint, some scenes where she sees her sister in dreams whenever she feels down or upset. One day, her singing gets the attention when she goes to a talent show, and her singing gets the attention of a major record exec, and then she gets signed to a major music label in New York, and then she blows up, and she becomes an R&B star. But then she finds out the dark side of the music industry. So basically, I did extensive research when I did this book, watching episodes of Unsung that used to come on TV1, and
Yeah.
Yes,
actually
yes.
reading autobiographies of some of these artists. And I learned about some of the contracts that these record labels were giving these artists and how some of them were holding their money back, and then they weren't paying these artists. And as a result, the artists would basically um, be forced to indulge and then do different things, act out of character. Some of them get in trouble with the law. Some of them end up in tragic situations. So basically, Adia's Ballad basically summarized how Andrea, that's her real name, Adia is her stage name, how she navigates all of that in the music industry. And at the same time, I set it against the hip hop scene, because, I wanted to kind of paint, I'm sure y'all remember back in the 90s, they had the East Coast, West Coast battle type thing. So in this book, I painted like feuding record labels against each other. So this is one of my most favorite books, Adia's Ballad. And then the third book in the series. So after I wrote Adia's Ballad, I found myself being surrounded by different news of what's going on around the world. You got Trayvon Martin. You got Alton Sterling. You have Philando Castile. Then you have Bill Cosby, which that for me, that was what set it off for me, was the Bill Cosby verdict, where all these women were coming out accusing him of different things. And I was just sick and tired of black men being accused or being wrongly killed by the law establishment. And I decided, okay, you know what? I got to write about this. So after a few inspiration and watching some thriller movies, I came up with the idea to write Fires of Justice. So Fires of Justice is basically my first thriller social justice novel. It's about a teacher who basically moves from New York to Georgia. He gets a job teaching 11th grade English at a Metro Atlanta high school, but then he gets stalked and, obsessed upon by a 16-year-old white girl that also happens to be his neighbor as well. And she pursues him relentlessly. And then after a confrontation turns physical, basically, he gets arrested and he gets thrown in jail for something that he didn't do. So this book goes behind the psychological stuff that he goes through behind bars, and also the detective from The Preacher's Web, who's related to one of the characters in Fires of Justice, his wife. He's called upon to investigate a plot to actually frame this man to throw him in jail. So it actually goes, there's a whole web of stuff. And I've been known to have the occasional plot twist here and there. So I normally throw my readers into a little bit of suspense where, yeah, you gotta love them plot twists. Rhonda knows what I'm talking about, so she knows what's up. But Fires of Justice, everywhere I go, each book event that I do, this and Preacher's Web always seems to be the one that people gravitate to the most. I always seem to run out of these books every time I sell. So this happens to be one of my bestsellers, personal bestsellers as well. So The Fires of Justice, one of my favorite books too. And
Okay.
then hang
And
with
do
me,
you have
y'all.
a book four?
I do have a book four. I have 6 books in the series so far. So
Okay.
yeah, so my fourth book is called Split Decision. So the inspiration behind this book, I had a membership at the UFit gym near my house, and I was doing boxing training with my trainer, and I love boxing training so much. I love boxing, so I love the intricate science of boxing. So I decided to create a story centered around boxing. So this story is about a middleweight contender by the name of Silvio Dominique, who's training for the middleweight championship. And in the midst of training for the middleweight championship, he gets involved with a Dominican girl who has dangerous ties, like gang ties, and also dangerous ties to his next opponent, who happens to be the champion. And then he's given an ultimatum because the powers that be don't want him to hook up with this girl. So now they're asking him to throw the championship fight. And then if you throw the championship fight, we'll leave you alone. But if you don't throw it, then we're gonna come for you. So that's why I call the book Split Decision, because he has to make a decision, and it's also a play on words. If you
For
watch
boxing.
boxing, yes,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes down to a split decision, it comes down to a card count, or who wins, who has the most punches, etc. So that's why I named this book Split Decision. And then I also wrote the sequel to that, which is Split Decision 2. Split
Okay.
Decision 2, it follows Silvio some years later. He comes back from retirement and he tries to regain his middleweight title back, that was taken from him. So, but in the midst of that, his trainer goes through some, and in here I kind of take my reader through like mental issues, male mental situation, because his trainer goes through some situations where he doesn't know if he could train him again. And then I go back into his past. There's a lot of flashback in Split Decision 2. So this book actually took me longer to write than my other books in my series, because I had to study geography. I had to study like cities and locations, and there's a lot of more characters involved in Split Decision 2. So this is also part of the series as well. And last but not least, I
Okay.
have my last book, which is Street Retribution. So
Okay.
Street Retribution, actually, this actually is a continuation of uh, The Preacher's Web and Adia's Ballad. And the reason I say it, even though all the books are part of the series, but Fires of Justice and Split Decision 1 and 2 are what I consider outliers, meaning that they're not directly connected to Preacher's Web and Adia's Ballad because they got different stories. So Street Retribution, I take my readers back to New York, back to the events that took place in Preacher's Web and Adia's Ballad. So Street Retribution, there's a key court scene in the Preacher's Web where a key witness actually testified against the gang leader who was responsible for Laurie's death. And then the gang leader gets locked up behind bars. Well, in Street Retribution, the gang leader somehow gets parole and he gets out of jail. And his first order of business to hunt the key witness down and to hunt everyone down. So there's a bounty put out on the key witness's head. And by this time, the key witness, he becomes a lawyer and he changes his name from Antonio Franks to Edward Reed. So now Edward Reed's life is in danger. So are the other gang members who turn their back against the gang leader, and they're basically being hunted. And so basically, it's also another crime thriller novel as well. And there's a lot of elements. There's romantic elements. There is some mystery element, and there's also some espionage elements, as you guys will see in the next book that I'll be releasing, which I would like to talk about as well on this platform, if it's okay.
And
Okay.
you've been busy.
Yes.
Oh, I know I've been reeling off because I know I'm on a limited time frame, so I want to try to reel off all 6 books before I run out of time. So
But
that's
no,
basically.
she's saying you've been busy writing.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, after I wrote the next book that I have coming out, for everyone who's watching, my next book is titled Divine Vengeance. So Divine Vengeance is a continuation of Street Retribution. And basically, it's supposed to and I'll let my readers know, it is the last book of the series. So this will be the book that ends the Black Cyrano series, basically. So Divine Vengeance will basically wrap everything up because Street Retribution ends on a cliffhanger. So it's a cliffhanger ending. So that means basically I want my reader to know there's going to be a second part to it.
So,
So yes.
no, I was just going to ask, you've moved all of these books over to She Publishing.
Yes.
Did you make any changes to the books?
Absolutely. Well, I didn't change like the story. So the story is pretty much the same, but She Publishing was able to reformat them, put a different font, put a new layout, give it a more professional look, which is what I wanted. And they've been able to push the books more so than my previous publisher did. So so the layout is different. It's a more professional layout. It's clean. Not to say that the last publisher was dirty, but sometimes I like when I don't want to just put no disparagement on nobody, but I
Well,
want
you
when my
didn't tell us
readers,
who it was, so
yeah,
Yeah,
we
don't
don't
tell us.
I want to keep them anonymous, yeah, but basically, so She Publishing changed the font, they changed the layout, So everything looks. When my readers open my books, I want them to feel like they're reading a professional novel. You know what I'm saying? I want them to feel like they're reading something that's professionally done, professionally edited, professional. So there were some soft edits done, and then there was some font changes. But other than that, it's still the same story. It's the same concept.
Okay. All right. So I was gonna ask what is she publishing, your relationship with them? How did it change your trajectory, but also your outlook?
Like there could be some success for me in this authorship industry. That's what it is, to be honest with you. So the collaboration with She Publishing has been a godsend for me because they came to me at a point where I honestly was starting to question my career in writing and my authorship journey because so many times I felt like quitting because I wasn't seeing the financial benefit in it. And not because when I was doing the book signings, everything goes well because when I do the book sign, I sell pretty well, but then the momentum would die down when I'm not doing the signings, because between signings, my books were not being pushed. They were not being um, marketed. They were not being branded. So I wanted to be part of a family that was going to do that for me, even when I don't go to a signing, because I'm not going to be able to make every signing. But if I was part of a publishing family that says, we have this up and coming author who's written these books, and if you could support him, and then if you're a fan of urban fiction, thriller novels, this is right up your alley. So I just wanted to feel that togetherness, that family, that support. So that's why the relationship with She Publishing came at a time where I really needed it.
I think
Well,
that's
that
great. Yeah.
that is great, and they'll be back again at the festival this year as sponsors. So, and she's bringing some of her authors. I don't know which ones, but and I can't remember how I met Shanitha exactly, but it's been a great relationship and it's been mutually beneficial. And those are the kinds of relationships that work the best.
Absolutely. And what I like about Shanitha more than anyone is she will communicate with you on a daily. Like she is the first person I know. Like anytime she wants to let me know when an event is coming or if there's editing, how long the editing will take. Like she does things on point. Like the last publisher I had, sometimes I wouldn't hear from him for months on end. I wouldn't know what's going on. I wouldn't have no update, but Shanita is really good about, um, you know, keeping up and letting me know what's going on, keeping me in the loop. And that's what I like about her. Now I
That's
appreciate that.
what authors need in this industry, especially if you're a new author or if you want in need of some encouragement, like you were at that time.
Mhm.
You need to know that your publisher cares about you and that you're not
Yes.
just part of a machine. So
Yes.
that's one great thing about Shanitha,
Yes.
which is why I enjoy working with her myself. She always sends at least half of my authors for Black History Month Literary Weekend are going to
Yes.
be under the She Publishing umbrella.
Oh, well, and if I may, before I let you go, by this time, Rhonda, look, I'm gonna tell you this before the interview ends. You can sign me up for next year. I'm going next year because I saw how great the event was this year, and I regretted not going. But I was looking at the pictures, and I saw the videos, and I was like, man. And I went last year. It was great, but I'm thinking that this year was better.
Yeah, this
Like I
year
said,
was good. Next year is going to be even better.
yeah, yeah. So I can't wait. I cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, one thing I like about She Publishing when she brings her people, they are all very upbeat and positive. They are very all smiles,
Yeah.
helpful,
Uh,
all of them to a person. And that's not necessarily a given.
When you
no,
you have been promoting an event, putting it together, putting your blood, sweat, and tears in it, it's good to have people who are coming with smiles and encouragement.
Right.
yes,
And not
yes.
complaints.
And you know what? I want to shout out Shartia too, because Shartia was actually one of those that helped sway my
Yes.
decision to join Sheep Publishing, because when she found out what my situation was with my previous publisher and I told her about my pay discrepancy and then, the royalty situation and the lack of marketing. When I told her all this at Houston last year, she was like, "Oh, is this what you're going through? We can't have this. No, 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 no. Here." you need to talk to Shanita. I said, okay. You know, because I was definitely, by the time, because my publisher, my old publisher said that he was going to actually come to Houston to support me.
Okay.
Not one word. I didn't see him. And that was basically the nail in the coffin. That was it. And so I knew that when I left Houston, I was going to be part of She Publishing.
Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the interview.
Yes.
However, I do want to know, you said that you have the new book that's coming out. When can we expect it?
So there has not been a solid date set in stone yet, but I'm anticipating the release of Divine Vengeance spring 2024. So be on the lookout because Divine Vengeance is coming. And when I tell my readers, especially my readers who have already gotten or have read Preacher's Web, I think it's valid, and Street Retribution, you are going to want to get your hands on Divine Vengeance because when I say it all comes to a head in Divine Vengeance, I really mean that. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're not going to expect, a lot of situations you're not going to expect, a lot of scenarios that's going to be unexpected. I mean, I think and I always put my all in every book that I write, Ron, you know that, but I think I went above and beyond in Divine Vengeance. When I say that I double, triple checked it and, a lot of early mornings waking up, reading, revising, pre-editing, all of that. So yes, Divine Vengeance, when that comes out, is going to be real good. And I can't wait.
Well, we're right up against the hour to end the show. So we want to let all of our viewers know that we love you and thank you for tuning in once again. The Other Princess was won by Curtis Steverson. I checked the people who responded. So Curtis, your book will be in the mail. And we'll see you all again next week on another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Yeah.